Obchodování na finančních trzích může být pro mnohé stresující záležitostí. Pro ziskové obchodování je důležité zůstat klidný a vyrovnaný a naučit se, jak toho dosáhnout. Teprve pak získá trading ten správný základ. Investorský magazín je tu dnes proto, aby vám otevřel dveře do psychologie tradingu. Užijte si ho.
Při obchodování na burzách může dlouhodobě vydělávat pouze ten, kdo si uvědomí, že trading je komplexní disciplína, která kromě odborných ekonomických a tržních znalostí vyžaduje i schopnost naslouchat okolí a ochotu poznat sebe sama.
In fact, it's the love of markets that makes traders successful. It's when we love the activities of generating ideas. We love the activities of learning markets, of improving our performance. It's everything we do outside of market hours that makes us successful.
Vaše investice, váš život, vaše budoucnost. Sledujete Investorský magazín s Petrem Novotným.
Investorský magazín tradičně začíná shrnutím toho hlavního, co se odehrálo na trzích a v ekonomice v uplynulých dnech.
Evropská centrální banka podle očekávání potvrdila nastavení měnové politiky. Beze změny tak zůstávají úrokové sazby i programy na podporu ekonomiky. Banka současně představila nový přístup k měnové politice, který naznačuje déle trvající podporu hospodářství spojenou s posunem inflačního cíle na 2%. Kryptoměny zažily další týden plný volatility. Kurz bitcoinu nejprve spadl pod psychologicky důležitou úroveň $30 000, poté ale ožil a dostal se až k $33 000. Podporou mu bylo mimo jiné vyjádření šéfa Tesly Elona Muska, že automobilka velice pravděpodobně znovu začne přijímat platby v této digitální měně. Makléřská společnost Robinhood chce z chystané primární veřejné nabídky akcií na trhu Nasdaq získat až 2 miliardy 300 milionů dolarů. Firma nabídne 55 milionů akcií v cenovém rozpětí 38 až 42 dolarů. S plánovaným oceněním celé firmy kolem 35 miliard dolarů vyšlo o jednu z největších nabídek akcií.
Psychologie, emoce, iracionalita, popularita těchto a podobných zaklínadel mezi investory každým dnem roste. Přinášíme vám základní manuál pro úspěšný trading od Bretta Steenbargera, legendárního odborníka na psychologii obchodování. Ten byl hostem portálu trhy.cz.
Let's look at some best practices in trading. The first one is maximizing your positive experience. What research in psychology suggests is that we are most productive, we get the most work done, we are most creative, we generate the best ideas when we have positive emotional experience. That's sometimes called well-being. When we have a good amount of positive psychology, we are most likely to learn, we're most likely to be successful. So what are the four parts or the four aspects of positive psychology? The first is happiness, doing things that we enjoy, that are fun for us. The second is fulfillment, doing things that are meaningful to us, things that have a purpose, things that fit with our values. The third area of positive experience is energy, doing things that give us energy, doing things that energize us. That means mental stimulation. It also means physically energizing the body through exercise. And finally, the fourth area of positive experience is relationships, being close to people who matter to us. These four dimensions are ones that we need to maximize in our trading process. Many, many, many times, traders begin to learn markets. They say they have a passion for trading, and they spend almost all their time with markets and with trading. And as a result, they burn out. they don't have the happiness, they don't get the fulfillment. It doesn't give them energy, it drains them, and it actually interferes with their relationships. What we want is to have a lot of happiness, a lot of fulfillment, energy, and closeness to others apart from our trading. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you want your personal life to be giving you this positive experience so that when trading doesn't make you money, and we all lose money at times, you have these other things to support you.
Would you say that one of these four is like more important, or would you say they are of equal importance? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I would say they're all necessary, and different people will implement them in different ways, but I think all of them are really necessary. In fact, there's research that happiness is not enough, just having fun, enjoying things. We also need purpose in our lives. We need to feel like we're doing important things. So for example, for a while, I tried trading full time. This was many years ago. I tried trading full time. I hated it. I mean, I made some money at it. It wasn't that it was unsuccessful financially, but I became a psychologist for a reason. I find it fulfilling. I find it meaningful to work with people as a psychologist and to help them with their lives, to be a part of their lives in a positive way. When I was trading full time, I was sitting in front of a screen all day long and I wasn't interacting with anyone. I was isolated. That was not fulfilling for me. It did not give me energy. Certainly did not enhance my relationships. So actually for me to maximize my positive experience, it meant either that I don't trade full-time, or that in addition to doing my trading, I have to find some of these things in other parts of my life. And what I ended up doing is trading part-time during the day and having the rest of my day available to work as a psychologist and the rest of my day available for my wife and my 5 children and my 7 grandchildren.
All right, I see. So basically, one could say, correct me if I understand it wrong, but one could say that when you are coming newly into the field, you basically have to learn about yourself and learn if the type of trading or approach to trading really suits you and fulfills these 4 areas that you have just spoken about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, what I would say is, if you don't have happiness in your life, if you don't have fulfillment, if you don't have positive energy, and you don't have closeness to others, trading, participating in financial markets will not substitute for those things. You can't count on financial markets to give you happiness, fulfillment, energy, and closeness to others. They can certainly enhance your life, but financial markets cannot substitute for those things. And if we rely on financial markets for our happiness and fulfillment, then we're going to be vulnerable when we go through periods of drawdown.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
In other words, we want to have a very full life while we're trading. We don't want trading to become our life. Okay, best practice number 2, going deep. Really spending time on learning to generate ideas that are worthwhile ideas for trading. Many beginning traders, they get some software and they have charts of different markets and they try to trade based on those charts. And there might be, a technical indicator, or there might be a shape on the chart, and they're trying to use that as the basis for buying or selling. There's nothing predictive in that. There's nothing back-tested in that. And there's no understanding underlying that. Why should a shape on a chart predict world financial markets? It literally doesn't make any sense. So we need to really study markets. We need to go deep and figure out why do markets move, what moves markets, how do markets move, so that we're not only predicting whether a market goes up or down, but we actually understand why that happens. Now, with some understanding, we can then generate trading ideas. But even when we generate trading ideas, we have to learn, how do we execute those ideas? How do we find places to buy or sell that give us superior reward relative to risk? The idea is the big picture of what's going on in the market. The execution is, how do we buy or sell to take advantage of that idea? And typically, when we work on our trading, we both work on how we generate ideas, and we work on the execution of those ideas, how we trade those ideas. For some traders, the ideas may show up as patterns of momentum or reversal on a longer time frame, and then the execution could show up as patterns of momentum or reversal on a shorter time frame, so that we're limiting our risk relative to reward while we participate in the bigger time frame idea. Enhancing creativity, that's a major topic of Trading Psychology 2.0, that we can learn techniques that make us better at generating ideas for trading. So for example, one trader that I work with will print charts of many different stocks, and we'll go through those and actually print out charts, and he'll put those on the wall, and he will walk from chart to chart and speak out loud what is happening. And pretty soon he sees patterns that certain stocks are moving together, and then he thinks through why that might be happening. And that will help generate some understanding and generate some trade ideas. By making it visual, by making the charts, the ideas visual, and walking and talking out loud, he's processing information in a deeper way. He's processing information in multiple ways, and that makes him more creative. That allows him to generate better ideas. Learning techniques that help us see things in markets that others don't see is an important part of trading success. Now, in addition to going deep, looking deeply into things, we also want to look broadly. There's a saying, there's a lesson that we've learned at a trading firm where I work called SMB Capital, that what you trade is as important as how you trade. In other words, some futures contracts, some stocks, some markets move more and move more predictably than others. We want to focus not only on ideas for a given stock or market, we want to look at different stocks, different markets, because those will offer different kinds of opportunities. So we're stalking, we're looking for, we're tracking different opportunities, and that diversifies us, that broadens us out so that we can make money in different ways from different places. Sometimes that breadth of view takes the form of trading multiple time frames, so that we will look for patterns that occur on short time frames. We'll look for patterns that occur on longer time frames. We might look for how those line up. And so by seeing opportunity broadly, short-term, longer term, we are able to generate different ideas and better ideas. So we're going deep, but we're also looking broadly at opportunity. Right now, I'm experimenting. I mentioned this on my blog. I'm experimenting with a platform that allows traders to back test their ideas. You can take any pattern in markets, and you can, in different markets, and you can test to see if there's an edge there. You can test to see if there's something worth trading. That platform is marketcharts.com. I mention it not because I have any involvement. I have no commercial involvement with it, but that it looks like a promising platform where you don't even need to know coding. You don't need to know programming in order to investigate different ideas, test different ideas, to do that deep thinking and to do that broad thinking.
Excuse me, if I come back to the point where you were talking about creativity,
Yes.
Do you think like these tools that you just mentioned, don't they like a little bit choke off the creativity, or would you disagree with that statement?
What techniques would show?
The platform you just talked about, or similar platforms like this, where you do not need the coding.
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I think it enhances creativity, because what can happen is you can think up any pattern or combination of variables. So, for instance, if the S&P 500 index is making a 20-day low, well, does the index tend to go higher or lower under various conditions? And you could explore different conditions. So it's a way of exploring relationships to generate hypotheses, and you'll see themes or patterns that occur among the different predictors, which actually enhances your creativity. A platform like that is really a way of playing with ideas. And one of the themes we see in psychology research is that creativity is a form of play. We play with paints when we draw. We play with ideas when we're generating promising trades.
All right, thank you.
Sure. So best practice number 4, position management. Once we have defined an idea that we want to be trading and we put on a trade, how do we manage that position? For instance, if the position starts to move for us, we become profitable. Should we add to that position? Should we take profits quickly? It turns out that volume and volatility matter quite a bit for that. In lower volatility markets and lower volume markets, there tends to be less movement, and it makes more sense to take profits quickly, or at least with portions of the position, take profits quickly. The traders I work with call that earning cash flow during the trades. So they might buy, I'm just making this up now, they might buy, let's say, 1,000 shares of a stock, and it goes their way, and rather quickly they'll take profits on, let's say, 500 shares, and then they'll let the other 500 shares go to a more distant target that they've defined. So they're holding that last 500 shares as a core position. In a higher volume and volatility market, moves are more likely to extend. So it's very important to have those core positions that we can hold on to. So position management means balancing when we take profits, when we let things run, and understanding how that works in a given regime, in a given mode of volume and volatility. So we work on defining our ideas, generating our ideas. We work on finding where the most promising trades are. But even once we place the trades and we execute at a good point of reward relative to risk, we also need to manage our positions successfully. That's a separate part of our trading process. Very, very important for developing traders to keep score. Keeping score means keeping track of how you're performing. Are you performing well? Are you performing consistently? Are you improving in your performance? At the firm that I mentioned, where I work, SMB, we use a platform, a software platform called TraderVue, TraderVue, to track performance of our trading. So we look at the number of winning trades, the number of losing trades. We look at the average size of our wins, the average size of our losses. We look at something called maximum adverse excursion and maximum favorable excursion. What that means is when we place a trade, how much on average does it move against us? That's MAE, maximum adverse excursion. How much on average does it move in our favor? That's the maximum favorable excursion. So one way of tracking how good we are at entering positions is to look at the MFE as a function of MAE. Do we enter at a point where it doesn't give us a lot of adverse movement, we don't take a lot of heat, and does it tend to go our way more than it goes against us? There are many, many different performance statistics that can be helpful in tracking our performance. So for instance, if we're trading 3 different strategies, we could look at our performance statistics for each strategy separately. We could also look at our performance as a function of time of day. For example, my performance as a trader is much better in the early morning hours than later in the day. So I've learned to do most of my trading in those early morning hours. Tracking our performance post-exit. Now that's an interesting idea. After we've gotten out of a trade, we want to track how that trade performed. If we bought, if we're long, and we exited, does the position continue going higher or does it tend to reverse? Many times, particularly as volatility expands, we get out of positions too quickly. And after we get out of them, the position goes even further our way. So we're leaving money on the table, so to speak. By tracking our performance post-exit, we can literally measure how good our exits are. Finally, and this is a big, big theme, maybe this is the most important theme from the Trading Psychology 2.0 book. Track what you do well. Yes, we learn from our mistakes. Yes, we learn by correcting our mistakes. But we especially learn by tracking our successes. When you find something that you do well in your trading, it's not random. You're doing it well for a reason. You want to reverse engineer that success and figure out, how did I do that? How did I generate that idea? How did I manage that position? Over time, you will see patterns in what you do well. And that tells you what to build on. The way you know a style of trading is right for you is by studying your successes. Well,
can we stop at this very interesting best practice number 5?
Yeah.
It's of interest, and we are still good with time. So I have this question. I am noticing that there is a trend. I cannot quantify how big the trend is, but I notice there is a trend of quantamental investing. And as I understand it, it's about tracking the performance, part of it, tracking what you do well, just really having like a database of how the individual trader or traders functions, and then using some algorithm or machine learning, or these techniques, which actually finds these patterns, what you were talking about. It's just the machine. Maybe a human can spot them too, but the machine might be better in identifying some patterns that people might not even notice, and
Yes.
these patterns in turn affect the positions or the trades that will be taken. So to make it more simple, if I understand it correctly, basically you measure the human element, the human psychology, and those measurements that you gather and the records, they influence the trading decision in the future. Do you notice this, or when you were involved with some big firms, is this trend going on? Could you maybe expand a little bit how the big boys, in parentheses, are approaching this topic?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question. So most of my work is at hedge funds, and at a few of the hedge funds, the smallest portfolio size, the smallest amount they're trading is $200 million. So they're obviously sophisticated, experienced, and in fact, they do exactly what you mentioned. They combine quantitative analysis with more discretionary analysis. So it becomes, quote unquote, quantamental. They're using studies that identify patterns in markets and in predictors of markets, and they're using that to help them generate ideas. But when and how they trade the ideas might be discretionary. So they're not trading purely systematically, but their discretionary trading is based on research that they've done. So for instance, one fundamental piece of data that they might look at is growth in the economy, GDP numbers. And when gross domestic product numbers come out, there are many sub-measures that look at different parts of the economy and how much they're growing. So let's say that you did some historical research and you found that if there's an acceleration of gross domestic product in a particular area of the economy, let's say housing, that the stock market tends to perform higher, tends to go up as a result of that acceleration. So that's showing you a pattern that you have identified quantitatively from the fundamentals, and then you would decide when and where to enter a position to take advantage of that relationship. So it's a combination of quantitative trading and discretionary trading. That is very common in sophisticated professional trading settings.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we track and keep score? Keeping a journal is extremely important. We can use a journal to track opportunities in markets. We can use journals to track our successful trades, to track our mistakes. We can use journals to set goals for improving our trading, but we can also use the journals to set plans for actually reaching those goals. The journal becomes our way of thinking about our thinking. It becomes our way of coaching ourselves. Some of that mentoring that we talked about early on, we can do with ourselves by tracking our performance and looking to make improvements. As I mentioned at the bottom of the slide, community has a big role in journaling. If we team up with other traders, even with one other trader, and share journals, then we're learning from each other, but we're also supporting each other in the learning. And it turns out that that can be very, very powerful as part of development, that we learn better and perform better working in teams by connecting with people online, by joining trading communities online. We can do the journaling together, and that helps speed our performance. Finally, best practice number 7, personal management. That means managing ourselves. This gets back to our first slide where we talked about psychological well-being, positive emotional experience. We want to engage in activities in our day-to-day lives that maximize our focus so that we have good concentration. That means taking breaks from trading, learning some meditation exercises that can calm us and that can sustain our focus. Maximizing our energy. There's a lot of research about aerobic exercise and how we are more productive and we perform better when we exercise, when we have given ourselves energy through exercising the body. Stress management. I've written quite a bit about biofeedback techniques. These are techniques, and now it's very easy because we have the wearable watches like Fitbit. They give us real-time measures of our stress levels so that we can learn techniques such as deep breathing techniques to slow down our bodies and to reduce our stress. And our wearable devices tell us when we're successful at that, so it helps our learning. And finally, maximizing our well-being outside of trading, making sure that we are diversified emotionally, that we have things going on in our lives that are positive and energy giving. Those might be relationships, those might be outside interests, but we don't want to be vulnerable where our trading profits are the only way we're going to feel good about ourselves. We want to have a full life outside of our trading, and that takes the pressure off our profits and losses. Finally, we want to turn these best practices into robust processes. Processes means we have things we do every single day, and there's some consistency to how we do them. Consistency to what we do in our research, how we generate ideas, consistency in our preparation for the trading day, how we look at markets and opportunities, consistency in our teamwork, consistency in our journaling and setting goals and reviewing performance, and of course, consistency in those areas of developing well-being, positive experience for ourselves. We want to take our best practices, take what we do best, and become more and more consistent with those. That's what it means to turn best practices into robust processes. And finally, I'll leave you with one idea, that our character is revealed when markets are closed. It's what we do when markets are closed that ultimately determines our success. That's when we research ideas. That's when we work on ourselves. That's when we review our performance. That's when we set goals. A lot of people go into trading because they love trading. They love the thrill of trading, the ups and downs. But in fact, excuse me here. But in fact, it's the love of markets that makes traders successful. It's when we love the activities of generating ideas. We love the activities of learning markets, of improving our performance. It's everything we do outside of market hours that makes us successful. So my hope is that these ideas and the ideas in Trading Psychology 2.0 give you some perspective, give you some thought about what it takes to be successful in financial markets.
V týdnu také navštěvte naše facebookové stránky, kde mimo jiné najdete odkaz na další videa z investiční konference trhy.cz. Teď už je ale nejvyšší čas zalistovat v burzovním kalendáři na nový obchodní týden.
Na konci července bude naplno pokračovat výsledková sezóna. Ta v Americe zažije svůj vrchol. Svá čísla totiž oznámí Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook a Tesla. K nim se připojí mimo jiné PayPal, McDonald's, Pfizer, Boeing, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Procter & Gamble, Caterpillar, Visa nebo General Electric. V Evropě se přidají vedle jiných Louis Vuitton, Nestlé, BNP Paribas, Volkswagen, Shell, Airbus a L'Oreal a dále Telefonica, Santander, Deutsche Bank, Carrefour nebo Ryanair. Na pražské burze budou ve čtvrtek sledovaná čísla monety Money Bank a v pátek oznamují Erste a Tatry Mountain Resorts. V Asii a Tichomoří pak budou stát za pozornost údaje od firem jako Samsung nebo Rio Tinto. Makroekonomický kalendář slibuje v pondělí českou spotřebitelskou a podnikatelskou důvěru, ostře sledovaný index podnikatelské nálady IFO v Německu a v Americe prodeje nových domů a index průmyslové aktivity Dallaského Fedu. V úterý bude stát za pozornost korejský hrubý domácí produkt, francouzská nezaměstnanost a statistiky úvěrů v eurozóně. Ve Spojených státech budou nejsledovanější objednávky zboží dlouhodobé spotřeby, indexy cen domů a průmyslový index aktivity Fedu v Richmondu. V polovině týdne vyjde australská a kanadská inflace. V Evropě budou vycházet indexy spotřebitelské důvěry. V Rusku budou oznámeny maloobchodní tržby a nezaměstnanost. A ze zámoří dorazí obchodní bilance se zbožím, zásoby ropy a týdenní data z hypotečního trhu. Hlavní pozornost na sebe ale strhne závěr zasedání měnového výboru americké centrální banky, od které se sice nečeká změna měnové politiky, mohla by ale naznačit, jak plánuje dále skupovat aktiva. Ve čtvrtek budou vycházet další indexy spotřebitelské důvěry v Evropě. Zaujme spotřebitelská inflace ve Španělsku a Německu a výrobní ceny ve Francii nebo Itálii. Spojené státy zveřejní upřesněnou zprávu o vývoji HDP ve druhém kvartálu a také týdenní data z trhu práce a rozjednané prodeje rezidenčních nemovitostí. Na konci týdne budou investoři hodnotit data z maloobchodu a průmyslu Japonska a Koreje. Zaujmou výrobní ceny v Austrálii. Nejsledovanější ale budou první odhady vývoje ekonomiky ve druhém čtvrtletí v Německu, Francii nebo Česku a také předběžná inflační statistika za země platící eurem. Ze Spojených států před víkendem dorazí data o osobních příjmech a výdajích, index nákupních manažerů v oblasti Chicaga a hlavně index spotřebitelské důvěry sestavovaný Michiganskou univerzitou.
A to je z pořadu, kde se potkávají velcí burzovní hráči s drobnými investory všechno. Za 14 dní se na vás budu těšit s další dávkou tržních témat. Naschledanou.